if I speak very, very honestly, everything that I've learned in these couple years, I just bring in couple weeks to these people, and every person in the world needs these skills, connections, community to succeed big in what they choose to do.
What's up, schmoozers? Welcome back to Schmoozing Time. My name is David Kabi, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you weekly episodes featuring proud Jews to discuss their personal brands. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. I greatly appreciate your support for the show. If you know me, you know I love a good schmooze with someone who has started their own company. As an aspiring CEO, I thoroughly enjoy hearing about the personal brands of CEOs that I'm fortunate enough to interview on the show. My next guest is a dual CEO, where she is currently the CEO of not one, but two companies that both involve branding. Joining me live from New York City, please welcome the woman who is at the forefront of connecting Jewish leaders to the Israeli ecosystem, Avivit Ohana. Avivit, ma'olech, how are we doing today?
How are you, David? Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, Avivit. I'm so glad that you're joining us. I know you're busy on the road. You're not in Israel right now. You're in New York City for a week, and then you're coming to DC, and I'm sure it's a lot of traveling and balagan. So I'm sure you're exhausted, right?
I enjoy it, actually. It motivates me.
I like that answer, because I don't get tired that often, and I mean, it's great to have you on the show. Obviously, Yuval recommended you, spoke very highly of you, and literally the first person I was like, Yuval, who do you recommend for the show? He's like, Avivit. I'm like, all right, let me check her out. So I'm so excited to have you on the show and talk to you about Eli and talk to you about what you're doing with that. So with that being said, I want to ask you, how's New York? How's it treating you?
New York is amazing. Luckily, for the third time that I'm here, I have a lot of friends, a lot of meetings. My schedule is full. So my mom told me yesterday that I feel home in New York. So
very nice. And how, I guess to you, an Israeli, right? As somebody that lives in Israel, how does New York City compare to Tel Aviv in your eyes? What are some of the similarities and differences?
Similarities, of course. A lot of things happen on the same time. People are busy. People need to get from one point to another one. But it's different. I feel like New York is more organized in terms of the streets, of how you get with the subway from one place to another. You can see a lot more diversity, and of course, many, many more people than in Tel Aviv. And I really like it, actually.
You think you'll ever move to New York, or you're staying in Israel your entire life?
I don't know. Let's see.
Have you been to any Israeli restaurants while you've been in New York, or you haven't gone yet?
Yeah, I've been to 12 Chairs, to Hamiznon. So that's for now.
Nice. I feel like New York is the best place outside of Israel to get good shawarma, to get good falafel. Like there's some, it's not like Israel, but it's close, right? Like you get almost the same taste as you do in Israel, but obviously Israel's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it gives you a sense of home.
Right.
Which is good. Yeah.
Yes. And are you, so you're from Israel, obviously. Are you from the Tel Aviv area, or do you live somewhere else?
So I was born in Jerusalem, and I grew up in a small neighborhood on the mountains on the way to Jerusalem that's called Har Adar. And when I started to study in Reichman University, I moved to Herzliya. And then I've done an exchange program in Canada. So I lived there for half year. And then I moved to Tel Aviv, and I'm there until now.
Very nice. What do you think of Canada?
I loved it. It felt like a movie for me. It felt magical with all the snow and the ski and I don't know, the mountains on the snow and you have like the jacuzzi. It was magical.
Yeah, no, Canada's very nice. I think America's a lot better. That's just my opinion, but I don't want to speak for every American. So, speaking of Tel Aviv, one common thing that I ask my guests from Israel is obviously about the food. I rave about the food in Tel Aviv. Yeah, all over Israel it's good, but Tel Aviv specifically, there's so much good food there because it's also like you have like like the cheap falafel that's also very good, but then you have like the very like high end restaurants. Like I don't know if you've been to oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. It's called like Pop and Pope or something.
Of course, that
Okay.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, it's a great restaurant.
It is like one of like you wouldn't think like in Israel you get the best sushi, but like I remember having that sushi and oh my god, it was absolutely phenomenal. And you have Sarona Market.
Mhm.
You just have everything in Tel Aviv. So I guess what's like you're going out to dinner in Tel Aviv. What's like your go-to spot that you go to?
Wow, that's a good question. Depends on the areas actually, but let's say I'm in Dizengoff Square. So there is a restaurant named La Chouk. So they have very good food, very good vibes in the middle of everything. So I really like this one.
Very nice. And what kind of food do they have there?
They have pasta, salads. They have a cauliflower with trina. They have a hamburger.
Very nice. And another part of Tel Aviv that I think everybody that lives there likes is the beach. So Avivit, I have to ask you this question. So you're on the beach, right? You're throwing a party, right? Big party, whether it's for your birthday or whatever. Who are three people that who are like the top three people that you're inviting to this beach party? And obviously it'd be more people, but I need top three right now. Go.
For my party, if it's my
For your party. It's for your party. You're inviting people. Top three people. It could be
um,
celebrities, your friends, your parents, whoever.
my friends, of course,
Okay.
my family, they are invited to everything I do.
Good.
And the third one, who will be invited? Um, wow. You know what? I have a lot of friends from abroad that come to Israel, and every time I show them all Israel and I take them to good places. So while I'm doing the party, the friends that I have from abroad, I will invite them.
Very nice. Very nice. And what are you drinking at this party? Are you drinking tubi? Are you drinking arak? What are you drinking?
I drink only cocktails.
What? No tubi?
No, I drink pina colada, sour amaretto. That's it.
You only like the fancy drinks. It's okay. I mean, Israel's got a lot of good places to drink. I can tell you that. I've been there 4 times, thank God, and spent a couple summers there, or spent one summer there for like 2.5 months, and it was amazing. One of the best times of my life, and I got to meet so many different Israeli people, which was awesome. Being from the United States and growing up a proud Jew, it's always great to meet Israelis. I have a ton of family in Israel, so it's going back there is amazing. And obviously, one thing that all Israelis have in common, or most Israelis have in common, is that they were in the IDF at some point in their lives. And the IDF is very, very cool to serve in. I have a lot of respect for people that serve in the IDF. And one of the things that you did in the IDF is you were actually in the Air Force. So that's an area that a lot of people don't really talk about when it comes to the IDF. People talk about the combat soldier units. I had somebody on my podcast who was in the communications unit and worked a lot with North America media companies. So there's a lot of different roles that you can have in the IDF. And I love hearing about the roles that are like outside of your stereotypical like combat, like Fauda roles, right? So I guess tell me a little bit about your role in the IDF and the Air Force and what that experience was like.
So I always dreamed about being an officer. I didn't even know what it means. I just knew that once you're an officer, you have an impact. So I joined the IDF, and luckily to the Air Force. I have a family history in the Air Force. And when I joined there, I joined to a specific course that within 10 months, I become an officer. So I served almost 5 years as an officer in the Israeli Air Force, and I've done three different roles. The two interesting that I will tell you about. So the first one is in Bahad Echad. Bahad Echad, it's the officers' school of the whole IDF, and I trained soldiers to become officers. So I trained 60 soldiers in 1 year to become officers to many different places. And it was a great, wonderful, interesting year. And then I came back to the Air Force, and I was the public relations officer of Tel Nof Air Force Base, which is the biggest base of the Air Force. And we had more than 360 visitors and events during 1 year. And we had visitors from all over the world, from Harvard, from Yale, from the CEO of Boeing, and so many others. So I loved it.
That's so cool that you got to do that. And not only were you in the Air Force, but you were in a leadership position in the Air Force. And, a lot of people have said this to me, and I think this is very true, is that the people that succeed the most in the IDF are the ones that succeed the most outside of the IDF. And I can tell you, like, I worked for a startup in Israel, a software development company, and the CEO, he was very, very high up in the army. So I think that correlation is definitely something that needs to be studied more, because it is absolutely amazing. But before we move away from your IDF career and talk about your professional career, I want to go a little bit deeper into this Air Force service that you had. And the Air Force, again, something that people don't talk about with the IDF. What is something that like people don't know about being in the Air Force? Like, is there a special training that you have to go through? Is it, a little bit harder than being a combat soldier? Like, how was that process of going into the Air Force? What was that like? And especially being in a leadership position, I can imagine, right? You probably faced a lot of harsh training. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how it is to be a combat in a different place in the army. I know a little bit from my service in the officers' school, but my DNA belongs to the Israeli Air Force. So that's what I know. But I can tell you that it's a very organized force, which means that everything needs to be done very ordinary through the rules. So I can tell you one thing, that it's really in the DNA of the Air Force, which is to investigate what you have done. Even if you have done an event, you have done something that's very important in terms of fighting or protecting the state of Israel, you need to investigate everything you do. So you have a report of what you've done good and what you could have done better. And that means that the Air Force every time become better. Which is something that lead us to become very good, if not the best. So that's very, very important in the Air Force. Another thing is that it doesn't matter how difficult is what you do. You need to do it on the best way you can. And that's also a way to make things extraordinary. And I think when you talked about becoming a good leader in the IDF and then succeed outside of the IDF, it's something about your personality. That's what makes you succeed, no matter if you're in the IDF or outside.
I can't wait to get into how you started Ellie, because I think it's kind of like a total reflection of what you're trying to do with people that are not necessarily having that same background or that same experience that you get within the IDF that equips you with the necessary skills to kind of go into that entrepreneurial route and think big, think innovative. So before we get to Ellie, what happened in the time in between you get out of the Air Force and starting Ellie? I know you had a couple of different positions, working with CEOs, a lot of different positions in kind of the startup world. So maybe if you could touch on those a little bit before we get to talking about Ellie, because that's what I want to talk about the most. And I think you, our listener, is going to want to hear about this because Ellie is such an amazing, amazing opportunity for young Jewish professionals, for older Jewish professionals to connect with the Israeli tech world. But anyway, tell me a little bit about your career before you started Ellie. So your post-IDF, your post-Air Force service, what did you start doing?
So I started to study at Reichman University, business administration and digital innovation, and I wanted to be as most active as I can. So I've done many, many, many things while I was a student, and I was an intern in a VC, and I worked in a huge corporate in the tech industry. And in the COVID time, I was a little bit bored. So I just started a company, an e-commerce one, and I sold all over the country to private customers and to shops. And I worked also in a startup, all of that in like time of 3 years. So that's the experience that I've got during these years.
That's unbelievable. So you worked in corporate, VC, and a startup in a span of 3 years, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. You can't like, that's not possible in the United States, which is like, it is possible, but I'm saying Israel, there's something special about the economy there. Like the fact that you're able to move from VC, startup, corporate America, like those are all so different, right? I mean, venture capitalists kind of invest in the startups, so they're a little bit similar. But I guess like working at those three companies, the venture capitalist, the corporate, the startup, and you also mentioned you started an e-commerce business, which is like nuts. What was like, I guess, the big takeaway from we're doing all four of those experiences, if you had one?
Okay, so during these 3 years, with many, many different experiences, I've learned that first of all, in these years, even when you're a student or whatever you do, you need to have as much experience as you can. So work, be an intern, I don't care what. You need as much experience in order to succeed much better than everyone else in the next years. Second, you need to have connections, which means relationships. Many things, if not like 80 or 90% of what I achieved was through relationships that I've built. And the third thing is skills. What is your personality and what do you know and what do you do with it? And it also brings me to why I created Ellie. So I realized that once you have first the experience, second, the relationships, the connections, and third, the skills, those three things will give you the jump and will bring you to the next level in your professional life. And that was one of my motivates to do Ellie, to create Ellie, to give everything that I've learned in these couple of years to bring people in a few weeks, give them the opportunity to succeed. Ellie is Entrepreneurship Leadership and Israel. And the vision of Ellie is to impact the next generation of Jewish business leaders, which means to empower them, to give them the skills, to give them the connections, and to create a global community of aspiring business leaders that they will be the leading in the coming years and decades.
This is an amazing opportunity to work on not only your skills and networking abilities, but it's an opportunity to work on the main essence of the show. The reason why I'm doing the show your personal brand. And I've said millions and millions of times that your personal brand is the key driver of where you get in life. Avivit was talking about the networking, the experience, the opportunities, whatever. That's all wrapped up in a personal brand. So Avivit, I noticed on the website that Ellie helps these young students, 18 to 35, basically, improve and promote and shape their personal brand. So how exactly are you doing that through Ellie?
So this year, we even start to work with high schoolers between grades 10 and 12. And also, as we already do, young professionals between the ages of 18 and 35, and how we give them the opportunity to build their personal brand. So first of all, they create these connections and they meet top Israeli figures leading in the business high-tech startup ecosystem. These people usually, it's not easy to meet, to speak, to have an opportunity of mentorship with them. And in Ellie, you get this opportunity. And once you take this opportunity and you ask the right questions, maybe you follow up with a speaker, you post a LinkedIn post, that means that you've done something that others didn't, and you have an advantage. Second, we also have a specific session of personal branding, what it means, how does it look like, what do you need to do practically to build your personal brand. It can be on LinkedIn, it can be on Instagram, Facebook, in real life, in creating the connections of what to speak about, what is your messages, what is your vision, and how to create these connections, relationships, and to manage your personal brand. It's something that is more than important, and it's something that will definitely affect your next role and your next step in your career.
Avivit, you can just take over my show now. That's exactly what I've been preaching this entire time. I didn't even tell her to say any of this. And Avivit's absolutely right. I mean, I feel like what she's doing right now is kind of like a step ahead of what I'm doing. So I have the podcast, right, where I talk about personal branding and I bring on people like Avivit, but she's doing it and making it into a business, which is like absolutely phenomenal. And when she says that she's connecting you with literally the top people in the Israeli ecosystem, Yuval Teren, for example. I mean, if you listen to his episode, this guy is literally the king of subconscious communication. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I strongly, strongly recommend going back and listening to that, because that episode was unbelievable. But point being, Avivit brings on, 10, 20 different, 30 different Yuval Terens, each experts in their own industry, and you get to learn from them. And I think that there's no price tag that you can put on that, right? Even though Ellie is done virtually, right? You still get the same experience as you would do with the mentorship, and you still get the same value out of the personal branding lessons, right? Like, the fact that you're listening to this episode right now tells me that you are able to learn something virtually, right? And especially with Ellie, right? This takes it to another level. It's personalized for you. You bring in, Avivit brings in speakers that you want to hear, and people that are all across social media that are Israeli, that are experts in their field. So this is truly a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I don't say that often on this podcast. I mean, it's just an amazing program. And I can tell you right now, like I mentioned earlier, interned at a software development company called TLV Tech, and I'm forever grateful for this opportunity to go to a software development company and work at a startup, work very, very closely with the CEO, who I'm in contact with to this day. And, to go from that to where I am right now, doing this podcast and having a job in corporate America and one of the largest asset managers in the world, like, I can tell you that experience working with people overseas is so, so important. It's really, it's a phenomenal program. And I guess, like, my question to you, Avivit, is how are you promoting this around America, right? Because obviously it's difficult to promote something like this, to get people, on Zoom for, an hour or however long it is, 2 hours, 3 hours, to get people consistently involved in the program. It's very difficult. And especially people my age and a little bit older even, we have very, very busy lives. So what is kind of your message to people that in America, like, how are you promoting this service, and what is like the value that you want to see out of these people?
So for almost 1 year, I've done it all virtually. That means that I was in Israel and I contacted with big organizations that helped me to reach to the communities. And I talked with every friend that I have in the United States, also in Europe, everywhere, to help me get to these Jewish communities. And now I'm in the US and I'm going to 6 different states, and I'm going to Jewish communities and to the IEC conference. And in every place I have either lecture, either a meeting, either an event with the Jewish community. I share with them my story, my journey, my key takeaways, my lessons. And I also tell them about Eli, and that's how I reach them. And my message to them, if I speak very, very honestly, everything that I've learned in these couple years, I just bring in a couple weeks to these people. And every person in the world needs these skills, connections, community to succeed big in what they choose to do.
100%. I absolutely agree. And I think it really speaks testament to who you are as a person, that you're doing this out of the, obviously you've created this as a business, but you're also doing this out of the kindness of your heart. You're giving back because you've been able to build up your brand so well, and now you're helping others, which I think is absolutely amazing. So let's go into a little bit about your personal brand. Obviously, you're doing this to make money, create a business, but also you've elevated your brand so much that you're able to now give back to Jews across the world, especially in the United States. So with your personal brand, right, one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode is that you are currently balancing being the CEO of not one, but 2 companies. That takes up so much time. So I have to ask you, as somebody that's balancing a podcast and a 9-to-5 job, which is nothing compared to what you're balancing, how do you manage your time? Like, I have to know the secret to this.
Yeah, I have to manage my time very well because I need to do so much in the same amount of time. That means that I really need to work very organized to know what I need to do in every company, what are my goals, what are my deadlines, how I manage the people that work with me. And that's how I succeed to manage both. Each time, different company requires my attention. Let's say 2 weeks ago, I had a huge event for Freshly. That means that 3 days before or 4 days before, I needed to put my whole attention in this company, in the event. And right now, while I'm in the US, I need to invest more time in Ellie, right? That means that I need to know when to invest my time in each company, how to manage my employees from abroad, to give them tasks to do, to follow it. Time management. I think that's the secret.
Time management. I feel like it's so easy to get lost in that aspect, right? Because people want to put everything on their plate, and especially for somebody like me, like I love to take every opportunity I can, whether it's like I don't have time or I have a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, if you don't know how to manage your time, you're not going to get anything done in life. And competitive priorities, we talk a lot about that, how, things compete on your list and you just have to know when to do them. So obviously time management, very big part of your brand. But I guess like the final question I have for you, if you could choose one characteristic about your personal brand that stands out the most to you, that you want people to remember most, what would it be?
So the thing that most people say about me is courage. Not afraid to do whatever I want. But the second thing that without it I couldn't succeed is the ability to execute, to dream about it and to do what it takes to make it happen and succeed.
I love it. Mic drop. That's a great way to end this interview. But Avivit, before we go, I want you to talk about where people can find out about Eli, because I know you have some sessions coming up, and I want you as a listener to get involved in this. So tell me a little bit about where we can find more information about Eli.
So it's great timing because right now we start to marketing the next program, which starts right after the holidays, after Sukkot, at the beginning of November. You can go into Eli website. It's www.eliorg.com. You can go to the Instagram, Eli by Israel. You can go to my Instagram, Avivit Ohana. You will find details and links and apply for the program. We consider all the applications, we go over all of them, and we make sure that the best of the best get into the program and get this amazing opportunity.
If you are somebody that is interested in advancing their personal brand, meeting Jewish leaders from across the world, I highly recommend signing up for Eli. Like, it is a no-brainer in my eyes. If you truly want to advance your personal brand and you're serious about it, you will sign up for Eli. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like my podcast, Schmoozing Time, it talks about personal branding, and I bring on great guests to talk about personal branding. But what Avivit will do for you, honestly, is so much more than my podcast can ever do. So, Avivit, with that, thank you for coming on the show. Till next time, keep schmoozing.